Hey everyone, welcome back and let's do this problem today. The problem is decode an encoded string. So basically this problem is an extension of the previous problem we did where we encoded a given string, but in this case we need to decode the given string into its original form. So what do I mean by that? Well, we're given an encoded string, and if you guys are not familiar with what encoded string is, I would recommend you checking that video out. But here we with the input is an encoded string, and we need to return it as a list of the strings. For example, if we have input 5-pound apple, 6-pound banana, 6-pound citrus, then the output should be apple, banana, and citrus. Well, how do you do that? So this is a code for encode method that we implemented earlier, but now let's continue building a function or method rather to decode the encoded string, right? So I'm gonna call def decode, and it is going to have self as an input, which is the string. And keep in mind this string is actually the string returned by the encoded method, and so we need to decode it into its original form, which is the list of the string, right? And I'm going to write here. Let's do a quick check. If it works, then we can continue working on it. Awesome. So from here, so what we need to do here is that because we are returning a list of strings, so let's initialize that. Okay, res equals empty list, and maybe we want to start from the start of the let's initialize our pointer. Okay, and then so if we have, let's say I want to create an example here. So if we have, so let's say our given string is like that. Okay, let's do 3-pound cat and 4-pound dogs. Okay, so if this is the string that we need to decode, so the output should be something like this. So the output should be a list and should be a string and dogs, correct? So like I said, we just initialize our pointer, and then while the pointer is less than the length of the input string, right? Less than the length of the input string is this. So that means while I is less than length of the input string, which is the s, and so we can start a second pointer, right? So we can start a second pointer to check if there is any pound sign, because remember pound was the delimiter we used, correct? So j equals I, and what does it do? Well, it will just I'm gonna write a comment here, second pointer to find delimiter. Okay, fine. Then what we need to check is we need to keep moving our pointer to the next position until we find the pound sign, right? So we can say while s of j, which is the index to move until we found the pound, and while s of j is not equal to the pound, what we can do is we can keep moving to the next position, right? So next index plus equals 1. And what if we found, so what if we found the pound? So if found, so what we need to do is we need to get the length of this length of the string from the starting position to the end index, correct? So length equals, so it should be the length, but remember the input is a string, correct? So what we need to do is we need to get the length of the length of the string, but this is going to be string I through j. But remember, this is a string data type, so we need to convert to this integer, correct? And so now we have the length of the word that is coming up next. For example, in this case, if we found 3 pound, right? If we found 3 and pound together, so if we found pound after 3, we should realize that, well, so get the string before the pound, which is 3. In this case, it was string, and we converted that to integer data type, correct? So I hope you understand that. And so what do we need to do next? So we need to do we need to append whatever comes next, whatever comes after the pound sign, but of the size 3, of the size integer, which is the length, right? So whatever comes after the pound of the size length is our next word, and that is going to be appended to this empty list. For initially it was empty, but we need to append to this this list, which is the arrays, correct? So then let's do that. So append, well, rather arrays.append, and what we're going to append, we're going to append the string after the position j, which is the, remember we found the pound at j position, so it should be from j plus 1 through, so j plus 1 through whatever the number it was given, right? So through j plus 1, j plus 1 plus length. Okay, let me explain this step one more time. So what happened here is, after we found the pound sign, so we're going to we just realize that this is the word that we are interested in to collect, right? So we need to start from the position j plus 1 until we reach to the length of the string that was indicated before, which is 3. So it could be like 6 or 7. If it was 6 in the front before, we would not end at here. We could maybe go up to 3, and 3 we will end at d, right? So this is important step. So important step to understand actually. And so once we have appended the word, which is the cat in this case, so now we're going to move to the next word, correct? So we need to reinitialize our pointers. So I will be, what will be our I? What is the initial pointer that we are going to initialize again? Well, so that is I is going to be whatever the position we ended before, which is this position, right? So I'm going to write j plus 1 plus length, correct? J plus 1 plus length, and from this position it should be 8, because we just start from here, because remember it was not included before, right? The 4 in this example, 4 is not included while we are counting cat. Very good. So we reinitialized the first pointer to j plus 1 plus length, which is number 4 in this example. And finally we can return our list, return rest, and then let's run this. Very cool. So let's run this example one more time. I think it works. And so what I'm going to do now is rename this as answer encoded for encoded, right? And encoded, and I'm going to create another step to find the decoded values so we can see what is going on clearly. Copy and paste here. So for decoded. Okay, and I'm going to change this decoded and solution dot de decode, and it is going to take what is the input it is going to take. So the decoder will take strings, correct? So which is actually decoded is going to take this answer encoded, because remember, so what we are decoding is the return of the answer decoded, correct, or the return of the method encoded. And finally we can return or the print decoded. So everything is looking good. Let's see what we did so far. Very cool. You see here what happened here is amazing, interesting, because remember our first method encode returned £5. Okay, I'm going to print the original string as well. Okay, so let's see. Here we can just print strings. If you notice here, the original string was apple, banana, and citrus, correct? And then we printed the string, and we used the method encode to encode the input string as this one single string. And this is £5 apple, £6 banana. Very cool. And then we have to decode this string back to its original form, which is apple, banana, and citrus. And we implemented a method to do that. And if you see here, this is amazingly working. This is what we wanted, right? So just for the testing purpose, I want to do the same thing in here too. So I'm going to print strings, and let me copy this and I can paste here. So let's call it decoded. Okay, and I'm going to call it decode. The input will be answer for this, and here should be answer underscore decoded. Very cool. Remember, we created a test case where the pound we used can also be inside the string a pound b p pound e, correct? So this whole thing was considered as a string while we encoded it. So when we reverse the encoded string back to its original form, we were able to get that. So if we didn't use the integer value in the front, what would happen is the program would recognize each pound sign as a delimiter, and it would create a separate item in the list, and that's not what we want, right? So this program works. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it helped you. Please consider subscribing. It helps the channel a lot, and I'll see you guys in the next one.